two amazing speakers with us today who are going to share a bit more about their personal reflections. So I think they should pull the visuals up on the screen right now, and then we are going to take you on a little journey around the world of B Corp. And so that should be on the screen any moment now. What we have scheduled for you today is pretty much a three-part program. So first of all, we're going to talk to you a little bit more about the work of the B Corp movement and bring you with us to the history, to the origins of where we started and why we seek to change the world of business and redefine what it means to be a successful company. Second of all, we're going to talk to you a little bit more about the how, right? If you want to be involved in the B Corp movement, what can you do? And then, of course, last and definitely not least, I would say it's even the highlight of today's session. We have two amazing guest speakers with us today who are going to share their experiences. And so if we move to the next slide, I'm actually going to give the word to these amazing guest speakers and ask them to shortly introduce themselves. Anagnosti, can I give the word to you?
Hi, United everyone. I'm Anagnosti John Choukalas, and my friends call me Tassos. I'm an environmental biologist specialized in environmental management and sustainable development. But most importantly, I'm a proud member of Apvita for 17 years now. I've been through almost every department in the company. And since 2017, I'm leading the Department of Human Resources, Education, and Sustainability. My biggest passion, of course, is to share my knowledge and experience with younger generations, hoping that they will do a much better job than my generation did in shaping and securing a more sustainable future for all of us.
Thank you so much, Tasso. And then also with us today is the wonderful Ece.
Hi, everyone. This is Ece. I'm one of the three co-founders at Reflex Studio. We are an Istanbul-based design and manufacturing office focusing on sustainable garments and everyday things. Well, that is the formal definition that you can also see on the company page and this presentation. It doesn't explain much, but for those of you who are joining from Turkey, you might also know us from the brands we manage, such as WWF Market and Amnesty Store. Well, just like all the B Corps, we are also working to harness the power of business. In our case, it's textile manufacturing and design to create positive impact for our society and the planet. And I'm very excited to share the stage with Anagnosti and Joey today, and excited to answer any of your questions you want to know.
So let me just get back to you really quickly. As I was saying, the origins of the B Corp movement really start with AND1 as a company founded by Bart and Jay, who was really based on what we would call now a social business. And why it is so relevant to talk about AND1 is to also learn a little bit more about the story of what happened when AND1 got bigger. So if we move to the next part of the presentation, we'll see that as AND1 continued to grow, actually they attracted more and more external investment. And with more external investors coming aboard of the company, Bart and Jay found that their vision of what this company should be, right? Good benefits for workers, taking care of your environmental footprint, working closely with your local communities, that this moved more and more to the background in favor of focusing on financial motivations. And these financial motivations were necessary because AND1 was strongly competing with companies like Reebok, Nike, and that were also in this industry. And Bart and Jay found that it was incredibly challenging to continue to grow a company whilst maintaining that social and environmental focus. So when eventually they decided to sell AND1 to a few of their investors, and they left the company. And although they felt like they had made a great deal, just 3 months later, they felt as if they didn't quite recognize the company that they initially started. So if we can move to the next parts of the presentations, we'll find that this was also the end of AND1, right? And Bart and Jay, they came together and they tried to understand, like, how can we build a responsible business that performs well itself internally, but that is also enabled by the rules of the market to not just drive profit, but drive value for all of its stakeholders. And they came together with Andrew. Andrew was a friend of theirs. They went to college together, and they started brainstorming about this idea, right? And in good American, they mentioned it that they wanted to create a company that could be a shining city on the hill. an example for anyone to follow. But as they set out with this idea, they found out that actually a lot of companies had this ambition. They wanted to be this shining city on the hill, but they weren't quite enabled by the rules of the market. Investors were looking to make money instead of creating social value. In terms of legal accountability, they had to make a profit. They always had to prioritize profit over creating social value. And so there wasn't just a need for a framework for companies to use, but really a new type of business that they would come to call the benefit corporation. And this was the start of the B Corp movement, all based on this idea to redefine success in business, to use business as a force for good, and to up the bar of what it meant to be a responsible company. So if we move to the next slide, you can actually see that the work of the B Corp movement focuses on 4 different fields of work. And these different fields of work are meant to address these systemic barriers to become this great new company, the Benefit Corporation. And so the work of our movement is on the one hand based on credible standards. And these credible standards are used in what we call the B Impact Assessment, an impact measurement and management tool that any company can use to get started on their journey to become a responsible business. It is focused on the work of B Corp certification, the ability to enforce these standards and to build legitimacy on the work that companies do, so that it's not just about saying that you do something well, but actually being able to show for it and build the internal structures that help you to enforce this positive impact over time. And third is our work focused on legal reform. Next to this B Corp certification, we've also focused on building a separate corporate form that we call the Benefit Corporation. And this corporate form is now available in the US, in Canada, in Ecuador, Colombia, Rwanda, and Italy. And it is meant to put the interest of stakeholders in the legal DNA of a company so that they are accountable to these stakeholders and that they can include these stakeholders in their decision-making as a means of preserving their social mission, even when financial considerations play a more and more pressing role. In companies where this legal form is not available, we typically work with local legislators or legal councils to help us find other solutions, for example, by making amendments to the Articles of Association of a company. And then lastly, our work also focuses on a global community of businesses that are purpose-driven and that want to be the change, that want to create a positive impact together. And I would say this part of our work might be the most impactful one, because it allows us to not just focus on individual companies that want to be this shining city on the hill, but actually bundle our efforts and create collective actions that allow us to accelerate and scale the positive impact that this movement can make. So if we move to the next slide, you will find a little bit more about what it means to be a certified B Corp. I just see the little brand right there on the screen. Anytime you come across this little Circle B brand for a company that uses it in their communication, on their social media, on their packaging, you will always know 3 things. These companies are high achievers when it comes to social and environmental performance. They focus on transparency and validating and verifying that they create this positive impact that they say they do. And they're focused on good governance. Every company that wants to join the B Corp movement also signs something that we call the Declaration of Interdependence. And in this Declaration of Interdependence, we've embedded the values that we share as a movement, so that when any company that wants to join doesn't just go through this process of validating performance, but also acknowledges these values that we share as a community. And in this Declaration of Interdependence, you, for example, find that companies that sign this want to use their business as a force for good, that will act as if we are all dependent upon each other and will make sure that we leave this world in a better place for future generations. And as you might find that the work of the B Corp movement has links to many other organizations around the world, many other movements around the world, and is really embedded in this need to create economic systems reform, to move to an economic system that doesn't just work for shareholders, but works for all stakeholders. And as a result, moves away from this notion of profit maximization above all, that works for the few and is very much focused on the short term, to creating value for all stakeholders that is inclusive and regenerative in nature. So if we move to the next slide, you'll find a quick overview of some of the companies that share these values and that are working closely together to drive business as a force for good. And you might find a few familiar names on the screen, whether that's big international players like Patagonia or Natura, the mother company of The Body Shop, to local champions like, for example, Tony Chocolonely, which is quite well known in my home country, the Netherlands. But also, of course, our wonderful guest speakers that are with us here today, Reflect Studios and Apivita. So with that, I think if we go to the next slide, we're going to hear from our first guest speaker, which is Anagnosti, or Tasso, as we can call him, who's going to share a little bit more about what it means for Apivita and for Tasso personally to be a part of this movement, and what his experiences have been in the time that Apivita has been part of this. Tasso, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Joy. Thank you for elaborating so well on what B Corp is all about. Now on our side, Apivita is a purpose-driven and a value-driven brand. It's a natural personal care brand, born of bees and Greek nature and raised by science, as we like to say. And our call to action is to pollinate beauty. That's our mission. The type of beauty, the beauty of the mind, the beauty of the soul, and the beauty of the body. Apivita means the life of the bee, and we are inspired and source our raw materials from bees and medicinal plants. So by nature, we are connected and interdependent on the sustainability of bees and plant biodiversity. We always knew that we did a lot of activities and initiatives for our people, for society, and for the planet. However, we wanted to do it in a more systemic way and understand and measure the impact all these activities had. Most importantly, and our biggest challenge, as we've discussed personally as well, was to establish a culture of continuous improvement, as we say. B Corp is a global seal of approval. It's a dynamic network that unites the power of brands for the greater common good. We knew that B Corp would help us redefine success and increase our positive impact for our employees, for the community that we work in, and the environment, contributing to a more inclusive and sustainable future. B Corp, for us, was always about sharing best practices, about joining forces to magnify our impact from a local scale to a more global scale, and also to becoming the change we seek in the world. There's a lot of discussion about that because we always want things to happen on their own. Most importantly, though, what we experienced from B Corp is that it helped us adapt and redefine our interpretation of performance and success. Every year, we set the standard a little bit higher because we know that if we improve even by 1%, this has a much bigger impact in the grand scheme of things, as we like to say. Further, on a personal basis, being part of the B Corp movement fills me with more passion, more satisfaction, and energy to continue to pollinate my knowledge and experience, to bring more people on board and shape the leaders of the future within the B Corp movement. It also fulfills me in a way because my personal goal always was to make Apivita a best-in-class case in the industry of natural cosmetics. However, by joining the B Corp, I realized that that was a great goal, but the most important thing and the most important goal that you can achieve is to become better or even best for the world. Thank you, Joey. I don't have much other things to say. I just want to share with everyone that it's been a great experience on a personal and on a corporate level because it made us realize that although we all have great intentions, when it comes to executing, we need to improve and we need to understand the materiality of all our initiatives and all the things we decide to do within our company, our capabilities, our resources, and the things that really matter to shape a better world for tomorrow. Thank you.
I think you're Joey.
Hello?
I might have been muted. Yes, I'm back. I'm sorry. I was just thanking you, Tasso, for your great words. And I think that reflects with me personally and with a lot of people in the B Corp movement that I speak to, is that this might mean a lot for your company, right? But also on an individual level, it's a lot of fun to be involved in, and it will really help you bring your values to work and continue to feel that drive to make a change. Ece, is there anything that you would like to add to that?
Well, in terms of our story of joining the B Corp movement, along with my personal motivations, the story is a bit funny because it was literally like the dictionary definition of doing business for good. When we first founded the company in 2017, we then became a B Corp just 2 years later. So even when we were in the ideation phase of the company, business could mean anything for us. So we are 3 co-founders with backgrounds in business and trade, and the business idea could have gone anywhere. And the company actually began that way. We literally said, we should do something for good, and what should that be? And at the time, it could mean anything. We first even had a phase of maybe going into the bracelet business, where we could empower local communities. Or we even at some point thought about applying a 1-for-1 impact model, but then pivoted because we just didn't find it original enough. And in the end, over time, with consistent hard work and curiosity, we built the studio that collaborates with meaningful institutions to generate significant amounts of impact. So keeping the core intention, we actually built a business around it. So my point with all the story is that we knew about the B Corp establishment and set the whole global B Corp companies as our benchmark since day one. And using the business as the force for doing some good lied at the core at the company. And it also was the fueling motivation behind my personal intentions. So to get the B Corp certification, we actually waited for our first financial year to pass to be eligible to apply in the first place and complete the B Impact assessment. So as I said, the core was critical. The business came along with it with hard work, which we now enjoy doing very much, and which we now enjoy being in this amazing community very much.
Thank you, Ece. That's really nice to hear, and also good to see that it's like the intention right from the start, right? Sometimes we see companies exist to create a positive impact, which I think is very much your case, and sometimes that happens along the way, right? A company might not necessarily set out to do this, but take this course later on in their journey. I'm sure we will have quite a few questions about this later on, and that we will address at the end. And I think we actually forgot to mention this with the fire alarm going off and everything, is that if you have any question, please do leave them in the chat, and the tech team will make sure that they get to us at the end. So with that, I think we're going to talk a little bit more about the how, and it seems like we have skipped ahead a little in terms of the materials that you see on the screen. But as Ece already mentioned, like the B Corp, one of the ways to be involved in the B Corp movement is to become a certified B Corporation, right? And this means that your company measures its impact performance, then goes through a rigorous audit, and eventually can fly the B Corp seal as a way of stating and legitimizing its positive impact on the world. And if we can pull this back on the screen, we can actually visualize it. And if not, I'm just going to talk about it. Is that if you want to become a certified B Corp, you should probably meet 3 distinct criteria. On the one hand, your company needs to be in existence for more than a year, right? Because we need this track record to be able to show and prove that actually this positive impact that you're going to create, that this is also happening in practice. You need to be a for-profit company, because we're all about using business as a force for good. And then third of all, you should complete the impact assessment and reach a score of more than 80 points to qualify. You can earn a maximum of 200, and now 80 out of 200 doesn't sound like that much. However, it is really quite a tough cookie to crack, because we see that only about 15% of companies can make this 80-point bar. And the reason why is because companies, as they go through this exercise of evaluating all their company practices against best-in-class standards, they only score points for all their positive practices. So all the good things that they do to make a difference for either their workers, for the communities that they are part of, for their suppliers, on the environment, for their customers, or have a built-in means of good governance to affect all of those stakeholders. And so the sum of all those good practices should be more than 80 points. And in there, we focus not just the day-to-day activities of the company, so what some people might refer to as CSR practices, but we also look at the intention and the way that that intention is being translated into a performance of the company. So the why, the purpose of a company is also captured in something that we call impact business models. And both of these are integral parts of the methodology that we use for the B impact assessment. And scoring well on those is also an integral part of what it means to be a certified B Corp. So if you want to set out on this journey, what you need to do is the following. So first of all, you can create an account for free of charge on the B impact assessment. And in this tool, you can just start measuring and managing your impact performance. The system will just guide you through the different sets of questions. It will refer you to resources that can help you learn more about particular practices or topics. And it will encourage you to implement new structures in your business that might improve your positive impact. If you're done filling out this assessment, you can submit this assessment for review. And if you do that, it means that B-Lab, the organization that I work for, is then notified that you want to apply for certification. And we will have to conduct a review to validate the answers that you have given. And to do that, we're going to ask you to upload all kinds of documentation, research, data points. We're going to invite you for a few calls so that you can elaborate on the positive impact that your company makes and the way in which you're doing that. And we use all these different means to try and verify the answers that you have given. And hopefully at the end of it all, you're still above the 80-point bar, right? Because that means that you can complete certification. If you are in a country where we have one of these legal options that we referred to before, we also ask you to implement this. And at the end of it all, you sign the Declaration of Interdependence. You acknowledge the values that we share and the mission of this movement. And with that, you join this amazing movement that uses business as a force for good. So that sounds really lovely when I tell it, of course. But luckily, we have a few experts in the room here that have some experience of going through this journey. AJ, could I ask you to share a bit more about why you deem it relevant to measure your impact and what the process of becoming a B Corp has brought you?
Sure. Well, as the famous saying goes, what gets measured gets managed. And to be able to measure, there needs to be a solid framework to base your data on. That framework can be different for every single company, and one should always think their own creative way of managing and monitoring their performance. But to be able to assess our own, we first created a framework which we call the 5 Ps of Reflect Studio. It's an overarching measurement system that we came up with, evaluating all aspects of our work and our influence on all our stakeholders from the standpoints of product, planet, people, partnerships, and progress. For all these groups, we identify our challenges and game plans. And I'm not going to go into further detail about what these are, but we'll explain why such framework is crucial for what we do next, which is impact reporting. The essence of B-Lab, correct me if I'm wrong, but believes that companies should be accountable for more than just profits. So we should be able to track, say, the underrepresented community ratio in a company on an at least yearly basis, just like we do for the EBITDA ratio, the margins for publicly available companies. And such KPIs are already compulsory to be able to complete the B certification impact assessment. In our case, when we were designing the 5B framework, we got inspired very much by the B impact assessment criteria and also added our own company and industry specific points, which led us publishing yearly impact reports based on these 5 Ps. And the impact reports and the whole impact assessment is extremely important for Reflect Studio for two main reasons. And I grouped them within two groups, actually. The one of them is internal and the other one is external. What I mean by internal is that when we create a framework for ourselves, it is actually helping us to build an amazing team culture that embraces all aspects of doing good business. When the team is growing, you want to make sure every single new member is accountable, transparent, reflective, and cautious of their everyday actions. So publishing an annual impact report and going into the reevaluation phase of B impact criteria every 6 months enables you to induce that culture continuously, so you're able to assess your improvement and set your KPIs for all departments. This is actually what we call like conscious execution. And with this, one can easily make sure, for example, an operations officer who is responsible from, say, ordering, buying office supplies is making sure she or he is reading the label behind of a product and choosing carefully for the intention of a good, better planet. And the second main reason is external reasons, which I refer to the commitment to all our stakeholders out there. May it be our suppliers, it can be our customers, or they can simply be our followers. Once we commit to publishing reports and redirect our visitors to the B Impact directory page, where anyone can see our scorecard based on what Joey just talked about, we're exposed. And this is done willingly. The responsibility just becomes real. It's now solid. So when you join the B Corp community, you choose to become a publicly available company by means of your impact on society and planet. Well, that is one of the most important things for me, actually. And overall, for those who want to join the movement or even just go through the B Impact assessment criteria, I can ensure that it's a mind-opening experience, as B Lab is an institution dealing with the best companies worldwide. So they come along with challenging frameworks, and they basically force you to think outside of your company's physical and cultural boundaries and pushes you to think in the mindset of these amazing global players that Joey has just gone through previous slides ago. That's basically it.
Thank you so much, Ece. Maybe just a quick follow-up question from my end on something that you pointed out, is that actually you choose to disclose a lot of information willingly. Right? And I think this might be quite different from traditional business, where information is being held back for the sake of not benefiting competition. Have you ever felt like being so open and disclosing all that information would come back to bite you?
Personally, no, but I can understand and feel why some companies can feel so. Because it asks you a lot about your team's culture and whether or not you have a corporate governance that actually works. You cannot just say, I have a corporate governance, and it's really challenging in terms of the questions asked. And a lot of people can also feel intimidated within the impact assessment criteria. I must say it's not an easy one, but it's definitely pushing towards the better end.
Thank you so much. Tasso, I'm curious how this is for you. How do you feel about what it means to measure your impact and be transparent about it? And do you have an example of your own work?
Actually, yeah, I have a very interesting story to share, and it might be very, very relevant to whoever is thinking of joining the B Corp movement. I've been personally following the B Corp since the beginning, since I think 2005, 2006, and I joined Apivita in 2004. We decided back in 2013 to start preparing to join B Corp, to become B Corp certified. We only attempted it in 2017 officially, and the reason was because we knew how difficult it was, and we needed to mature as an organization. It took a lot of convincing internally, because I explained that even attaining a score of 80 and being certified would be a very good performance. Imagine trying to convince owners, shareholders that 80 out of 200 is a good score. By all means, it doesn't sound that good. So it was a big challenge. And finally, in our first attempt in 2017, we scored 84. We all accepted it, and we all took it as ground zero. We took it as a starting point, a point where we can start improving and installing that type of culture I explained of continuous improvement. It was a very difficult situation in the beginning, but it was good because we had a chance to start onboarding people within the company on this improvement culture. And today we are very proud to say that on our second attempt, 3 years later, we will be evaluated by B Corp soon. So Joy, please be nice to us. We will score around 125, 120, which is for us a big improvement, because we set out some goals when we first attempted it 3 years ago. And we said, okay, now we're naked. We know exactly what we're not doing right. We know exactly where the gaps in. We need to fill them. We need to perform. And we knew that if we do that, the numbers would come. The performance, the financial performance would come. The performance at all levels would come. And this has been proven because since 2017 that we've been certified by B Corp, our financial performance improved. We attracted a big corporation, Puig, the Puig Group, which actually bought 100% of the company and has at its core sustainability. And not only that, it started involving other brands of their beauty pole into the B Corp certification. And soon, all 3 brands they have in the beauty segment will be B Corp certified. So we realized that redefining success and redefining how you deem performance on all levels and making it not just about numbers and money, but making it also about your impact on all stakeholders and not just the shareholders, increases the equity. And to be honest with you, my biggest advice that I could give to anyone, go for it and start from inside. Start from your corporate governance, start from your people. Get everybody on board. Get people to believe in it and to understand the value it would create for them at a first level and for the brand at a second level. It's going to guarantee you success. It's going to guarantee you improvement. So I would like to thank B Corp, because for us it's been a great experience, all this. And this year, measuring for the second time, I even realized other things that I didn't realize the first time. So every time I go through this B Corp impact assessment, I rediscover things. And this is what it makes it so interesting and so dynamic, because as we grow and mature, nothing is stable. Everything's dynamic. And along with this scheme, we need to evolve, we need to adapt, we need to change, and we need to cater to the demands and the expectations of our customers and of all stakeholders. So thank you, Joy, for this opportunity. And thank you, Etche, for your insights. And Çok Teşekkürler to all of our listeners. I hope I said it right, Etche.
Yes, it was perfectly right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tasso. I think those are some great insights. I actually saw one question from the chat that I want to point out, and the question was around consumer awareness and how high the consumer awareness of B Corp is. I think that is very much linked to the fact that the B Corp movement in Europe is still quite young. We've only started here in 2015, so we've been going for 5 or 6 years now. And some markets are bigger in terms of more B Corps, more consumer-facing partnerships, and there we see brand awareness growing steadily. But one of the reasons why we wanted to be here with the Imagine Summit is also to bring this concept of business as a force for good to the Turkish market, for example, where we've only had a few very select group of frontrunners that have joined the B Corp movement. So maybe a question for both of you is, Tasso, for you, how do you deal with this, with the fact that maybe some of your consumers are not yet so familiar with B Corp? And Etche, maybe for you, have you noticed that it has helped you in positioning yourself as a company in the market? So maybe we can start with Etche and then go to Tasso after, and then we can wrap up with the video that you prepared to wave us off, as we are almost out of time.
Well, for us, when we got the certification, we kind of took the challenge of introducing what B Corp is to anyone on anywhere we could choose. So Turkey, as you said, has very limited, I think it was 6 or 7 when I just last remember, of companies that were eligible for the criteria. But therefore, there needs to be, in order to set a kind of a fit in the market, in order to define yourself correctly that you're a B Corp company and reach out to all of your stakeholders within that adjective, I would say, you just have to introduce it. That's what we do in most of our meetings. You cannot just say, hi, I'm a B Corp company and continue, because otherwise most of the people you interact with have no idea about what B Corp is. But what we do in order to at least to set a criteria for ourselves, to set a definition, always take into account what other, especially textile companies that have been B certified and are kind of like determining the benchmark, such as Patagonia is doing. So it's a lot of research that you need to do and a lot of informative work that you have to actually let people know more about what this is by your own brand channels, maybe your website or Twitter or any other social media handle.
Thank you so much, Ece. And I think John, Tasso, I'm going to give the last word to you. But before we go there, I would just like to say thank you to the audience for joining us today. We hope you will all get started with this journey. Like I said, anyone can get started. That's the good thing about it. And this movement will be here to support you along the way. Tasso, as we are going to play the video, last few words.
Yes, to be honest with you, we had an even bigger challenge because we're the only B Corp in Greece and the first and the only, and still are. So since 2017, we're walking alone in the Greek market. So it was very difficult to even communicate because no one understood, no one knew. So we took it upon us to start enjoying the global conversation. And for us, it was not so much about the certification. It was about joining this conversation, talking to people, talking to customers, talking to stakeholders, and redefining our purpose and redefining what we deem as performance and success, as I said. And we've been doing a good job so far. And when we were ready and mature enough and internally on board everyone, we decided to also join 1% for the planet. And since last year, we are speaking a little bit louder. The audience are listening. I think the market is a lot more mature and ready to accept that this movement is coming, and it's coming very strong because it's a one-way street, and it's a street that we all need to walk on if we need to have a more sustainable and secure future, at least for future generations. Thank you, Joey.
Thank you, Tasso, and thank you, Ece.
Thank you.